Just a quick word from our sponsor before we get started with the podcast today. This podcast is sponsored by Allsbrook Accounting, Rochester's entrepreneurial financial service provider. This local team provides experienced accounting, bookkeeping, tax prep, and advising at extremely affordable rates to help entrepreneurs and businesses of all sizes launch smart and grow fast. Contact Allsbrook Accounting today at 931-841-4937 or www.allsbrookaccounting.com for a free consultation to get your business off the ground and on track for growth. I'm Amanda Leitner, and welcome to Rochester Rising, where we amplify the stories of Rochester entrepreneurs. Welcome to episode 140 of the podcast today. So today we get to sit down with mother and daughter team Amy and Linda Lorber, owners of Gardenaire and their new endeavor, Figue. So for those of you not familiar with Gardenaire, Gardenaire uses organic products to make tea blends, spices, syrups, and shrubs, which are drinking vinegars. They also sell drinking chocolate and marshmallows. And Figue, their newest endeavor, is a new retail space that will sell Gardenaire products, host cooking classes, sell other local products, and be a general celebration of food. So on the podcast today, we talk about Amy's first foray into entrepreneurship with a jam company and how this led to her journey into food entrepreneurship. We talked about childhood memories of food, Gardenaire and Figue, and what to expect with those businesses. We also talk about the wealth of food knowledge that's housed here in Rochester. We talk about Gardenaire and Figue's dog mascot, Mr. Rusty Bucket. And we talk about local resources and tools that are useful for growing a business in Rochester, including the SBDC and peer groups through the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation, and the value of participating and linking up with peer groups through the Rochester Farmers Market. All right, so now on to the podcast with Amy and Linda Lorber of Gardenaire and Figue. All right, well, we are recording today with Amy and Linda Lorber of Gardenaire and Figue. So thanks so much for being here today, ladies. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
And taking time out while you're getting ready to open.
Yeah,
so it's very exciting.
No, we're glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you just to kind of start off this whole thing. So, before you started Gardenaire, before you started Figue, what was your experience with entrepreneurship? Was this ever something you thought you would ever be doing, or was it just like you hit a point in developing these ideas and that was just the next natural step?
Well, I had lived in Nashville for 14 years, and I had worked in a law office and doing some HR jobs, but then my sister and I actually started a part-time job with a jam company. And so that was kind of my first foray into entrepreneurship and craft food industry. And so I loved it immediately. It was very rewarding to get to create something, which was what I was kind of missing in my other jobs. And so when I moved to Minnesota, I knew that was something that I was passionate about. I'd started learning about all these small food businesses, and it was just really exciting for me. So I talked Mom into starting a business here. I had grown up with a big garden. Mom was always preserving, doing jams and soups and, pickles and all that kind of stuff when we were little. And so it was something that was very, natural to me to be doing. And so we decided that we would start out by just joining the Rochester Farmers Market. And so in Minnesota, there's a cottage food law, that you can use so that you can just sell at the market. But we immediately knew that we wanted to be able to wholesale to other businesses and sell our product. So we actually started getting our licensing through the state immediately, when we started. And so that was why we kind of, I don't know how we got started in that.
Yeah. No, I find it interesting, and myself included. I think it's super common for people, they grew up around these things, they had these passions when they were younger, and then, it might take you a while, but you kind of come back to them in the end.
It's very true.
And run with it. I don't know why, but I think, as a core, we don't change that much as people,
Yeah, that's very true. No, and it feels good, right? It's kind of a safe and happy place. There's good memories attached to that. It's comforting. And so, I don't know. Yeah, I was really drawn to it.
So I'll start by asking you about Gardenaire, because that's where you started. So
Sure.
for people who might not know about it, kind of what is that business?
Yeah. So we grow organic herbs and some produce. We also source things from other local farmers, and we make several different products. We've got tea blends, tisanes, spices, syrups that you can use either like for cocktail syrups or just for sweetening up, beverages and desserts and cheese plates and stuff. And then we've got a line of shrubs, which are drinking vinegars. So that's kind of our more unusual product, I guess. And so that's, it's got the tang from the vinegar, the sweetness of the fruit, and you can use that to flavor up water. You can use it again in cocktails and drinks. You can whisk it with olive oil and use it as a vinaigrette. And then for fun in the winter, we've been doing drinking chocolates and marshmallows. So that's kind of our product line.
Fun. So right now, people mainly can get it at the farmer's market, and then can they order it through your website as well?
Yeah,
And then
through our website. It's also in town here. You can get it at the Co-op, at Dwell, at Forager. And so there are some local places. La Petite Cafe.
Okay.
She brews all of our teas, and we've had some different restaurants in town use our syrups and shrubs for cocktails and stuff too.
Yeah, the Cottage Food Act is certainly a really great thing for entrepreneurs. I don't know if the only thing I know about it is how it exists in Minnesota. I don't know if it
Sure.
exists in other states,
Yeah.
but it seems really useful for a lot of businesses when, it's really hard to go all in and you have to kind of test your market first.
Yeah. Well, so we could operate under it in Tennessee. It was actually a bit less restrictive than Minnesota's,
Okay.
whereby they'll allow you to wholesale some product, there as up to like $250,000. Here, you're not allowed to do that at all. So they, and it is different from state to state. And so that's one of the challenges too in starting a food business, is just learning the rules.
Yeah.
And there are lots of them.
Yeah, I think the food and beverage market is nothing to mess around with not following the rules.
Yeah, exactly.
And it'll get shut down really fast. I mean, anything. But that's not a good thing to mess with. Right. So you grew Gardenaire for 8 years, right? As a family business about?
Well, no, actually we've just been open for 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So over those 3 years, how did you kind of grow it? And then how did you know recently now it was time to kind of take the next step and add something else to your I don't know, entrepreneurial repertoire, I guess.
Yeah. So we started at the farmer's market. We self-funded, this project, and it was just a slow kind of natural growth. And we started adding on the other wholesale accounts, selling product online, and kind of just growing organically that way. And then we started getting pretty darn busy. And one of our biggest problems, honestly, was just finding commercial kitchen space. So that's a challenge in town here for a lot of other small food businesses, is just, that those spaces are, some of them are like secret. People do not want to share this, because it's hard to find. And we had rented space here in town, and that was one of our biggest motivators, was just finding a commercial kitchen so that we didn't have to tote all of our things in and out, and we could kind of just have a space where we could be set up, and that we'd have more hours to produce product. Mm-hmm. And so we initially were looking at just, any building that had a kitchen in it, and wanting to rent that and just make it a space for Gardenaire. But we're working with the Small Business Development Center and trying to put together just, a business plan and looking at numbers. And it's a really tough thing to do, to just have a commercial kitchen space and make those numbers work. So our business advisor, Rick Enderly, he actually helped us come up with a kind of a different scenario where we had a retail component. And so that's kind of how Figue came about, and then has grown into this whole new concept that we're super excited about, so that we can have a kitchen space, make our Gardenaire products, sell those, but now we're adding this component that'll include cooking classes and other local businesses and all of these really talented makers that we've met along our journey thus far, and be able to kind of celebrate food here in town.
Yeah, as a lover of food and baking, I'm super excited. So Figue is going to be on 16th Street, Southwest by Trader Joe's there in Terra Loco. So yeah, when people go there, what should they expect from an experience? What do you want them to get out of it?
Sure. Well, we started out calling it Figue for people who love food. And truly that's kind of the basis for the project. It's for people that are interested in learning about food, tasting new foods, that maybe are a little bit timid about exploring different, global cuisines, or even just, different local makers. This gives them a safe place to do that. We plan on having product line that starts at kind of a kitchen garden, through a tabletop. And so having different ways to look at how to prepare food, how to enjoy food. So, we don't want people to feel like they have to be great chefs to come there. It's certainly not the case. If you like to eat, this will hopefully be a good place for you to visit.
And I think that's certainly a gap, and it might just be me not being aware of cooking classes here, or just things that you can go. But, we were talking about baking before, and I've been trying to learn how to do things like cake decorating. And you don't realize, it looks so easy. Everyone makes it look easy.
Not.
And then you try, and it's like, oh my goodness, this is like a hot mess. Then that's an understatement. And it's not something that you want to watch. I mean, you can watch videos, but it's so much easier to go and have a real person, hands-on. And
absolutely,
in my, 15-minute Google search of Rochester, I never really found very much.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some things, but Tiffany with Choo Choo Kachoo, she does, cooking classes, but beyond that, I didn't really see that
she's going to
much.
be a big part of our project. Yeah, so we're excited to get to work with her. We've got, she's going to be teaching all sorts of different Asian food classes, but then she also is, a great baker and lover of all types of food. And so we're also working with Vincenzo and Cheryl Ness. They have his is called Vin Chef Cooking, and she's got Love in a Tuscan Kitchen, so we're going to have Italian.
I'm going to love that.
Yeah, right? So she does Italian baking, so yes,
so
you're in.
So I need to go, so then I won't have Jello panna cotta and other nonsense.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward. That'll be fun.
Yeah, and we have found a true wealth of knowledge here in town, right? We've got this beautiful kind of melting pot of people from all over the world, and so what a great opportunity to get to learn how to make authentic dishes from all of these different places. And we're excited to learn it. We're excited to get to share it with people. I think it's going to be a really, fun way to learn about different cultures and their food.
Yeah, I think that's so true. We all, like you were saying with, growing up here and canning things and having that experience, we all have that tie to food, and what better way to, get people familiar with other cultures and experience it through food, especially seeing how people prepare it. And I think that's going to be amazing. It's going to be really exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, we're really excited. I mean, I've been very interested in food. I love to learn new things and taste new things. And so, selfishly, this just seems like a really fun project to get to be a part of. I plan on hiding in the back of every class. So
you got to be passionate about it, because it's going to be a lot of your time. And like we were talking about before we started, there are severe ups and downs.
Oh, yeah,
so
absolutely.
If it's not something you
love,
you love
a
lot, it's probably not going to work out very well for you.
Yeah, right.
So I guess along those lines, so we were talking about this is a family business. So, while this has been growing, what role does the family play in each member? And have you kind of found strategies to be successful in having a family-run business? Because there's certainly a lot out there, and a lot of them don't work out.
Sure. Well, my mom and I, first of all, we're very close. We get along really well. And so that's really important, right? And it's a very also a safe place for me. I can tell her, anything. And so we can bounce ideas off each other. We know each other's strengths and weaknesses. And so that makes it easier to work together, and then we can, argue about something, but then it's fine the next minute, so that makes it, makes it good too. And we just, we have a good time together on it. We laugh a lot, and we have to right now, right? Yeah. Or we'd just be crying.
We'd be crying all the time.
Yeah, I get that.
But yeah, and my dad has been helping a lot too. So he's been doing a lot of the, construction stuff right now. He's always our market helper. He comes and helps us set up the tents and the tables and everything. And, but he's been doing a lot of work at the store. We're really very thankful to have him helping us. Yeah. And then we've got a dog mascot at home too that keeps us going, Mr. Rusty Bucket.
Oh, that's so cute. What kind of dog is he?
He's a Brittany Spaniel.
Oh, yeah, so pretty.
He's an old buddy, but he's got 3 legs, about 9 teeth, and but he's
Those
hanging
are the
in.
best kind.
Yeah, exactly,
They're
exactly.
really
Little
the
old
best
man.
kind.
Yeah.
Aw. Yeah, everyone needs their canine
That's right.
mascot,
Yep,
I think.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, we named a piece of land after my 10-year-old
really?
dog. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
So, huge dog lover, not the one who ate the dozen cupcakes.
Oh, right. No, he lost land rights.
He's got to get back up in
It's gotta be nice for
has
him.
not eaten anything recently, but this wasn't too long ago.
Oh, shoot. That's
But yeah, so I guess for other people out there, it sounded like the SBDC was really useful for you and your business and moving it forward. But what other kind of resources, tools, even just like people, random people in the community, have you found to be useful for growing your business here?
Well, I'm also a part of a peer group that's SMIF, the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation. And so that's all small food producers. That has been enormously helpful. I'm really a believer in peer groups and getting to learn from other people that are doing this. I'm sure you are too, but just getting to ask questions, people who've done this before, people that have resources, that have contacts for everything from packaging, and labels to a good insurance agent to an attorney. All of those resources are super important. And just hearing kind of other people's struggles is important, because you don't feel alone and you don't feel like, what am I doing wrong? Why is this so hard for me? And, these other people are just sailing on through. And so that's been good. Being a part of the farmers market has been important. It's such a great way to connect to the community. You get instant feedback, on a weekly basis from people, and just meeting the other vendors, and which have become a big part of our new store, right? We're going to be using a lot of their products. We're working with a lot of our, really good friends there now. And so that's been, and just the support of the community, people that we have befriended over the last 3 years, that come every Saturday and see us and now are cheering us on and starting this new venture it just feels so good. And we're really thankful.
Yeah, community is so important. You really can't do these things by yourself.
No, absolutely no way.
Yeah. And like you said, the lessons learned, the, not sugarcoating, and this is, when things aren't working, actually sharing it with your group and not like trying to, we laugh about when you ask people, how are you doing? And they're like, oh, great. And it's usually never, oh, great.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So, so important to have that peer support network. Because it's hard to understand when you're not an entrepreneur what people, and even, people who aren't, food entrepreneurs or retail entrepreneurs, it's hard. They certainly get the struggle of entrepreneurship, but probably not the specifics that you're going through.
Well, and one of our good friends, Deirdre, who has Le Petit Cafe here, she was doing that a few months ahead of us. And so, even that was enormously helpful, just to get to watch what she was doing and hear about, all of the hoops she's jumping through, to get her restaurant open. And then being able to use her as a resource and ask her for, all kinds of advice on how to, what she would or wouldn't do again, has been super helpful.
So my last question for you, what are the next steps for the business? Do you have a opening date for Figue, or what are your next deliverables?
I know, I'd love to tell you, yes.
I know how that goes.
It's, yeah.
Or even generally fall.
Yeah, exactly. And we hated to assign a date to it because I know that people get so frustrated when you choose a date and then have to move it.
Happen.
So we kind of just kept it a little bit vague intentionally, but we're hoping, for August.
So 2019.
Yeah.
Let's keep it.
Yeah, okay. Sounds good. I like that. That seems much safer, yes. Because, it's like you have a plan for your day, you've got your list, and then you've got this other thing that pops up, and you have to figure that out, and it sucks up hours of your day, and, so it's tough to navigate. Or things that, they say, yes, absolutely, this will be done in a week, and it's 3 months later and it's not done. So we've kind of stopped trying to plan our days at this point.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. Yeah. So I'll ask for people listening, what is the best way for them to connect with you, with Gardenaire and Figue, and learn what's going on? And if you have any final thoughts to wrap up.
Yeah. Well, we have websites for both businesses. You can join mailing lists. You can follow us on Instagram as well. And so we've got the Gardenaire is our name on Instagram, and Figue MN is our name for Figue. So
awesome. And we can find you on 16th Street Southwest. You're there now, and we'll be open in 2019 at some point.
That's right. Exactly.
With cooking classes.
Yes.
So, well, thanks so much to both you ladies for being here today. I appreciate it, taking time out of your schedule.
Thank you.
Yeah. And
Thank you for having us. I think this is important, and it is nice to share a story. I can't wait to listen to your other podcasts, so thank you.
So, well, best of luck. Thanks so much to Amy and Linda for being on the podcast today. Like we said, you can find Figue on 16th Street Southwest when it opens up sometime this year. And otherwise, you can find them using the links in our show notes. So if you liked this podcast, you can find many more stories of entrepreneurship on our website at rochesterrising.org. We produce podcast articles and videos, so check us out there for even more content. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And as always, if you know a great Rochester-based entrepreneur who would be an amazing guest on the podcast, let us know and send us an email at rochesterrising@gmail.com. That's a wrap for the podcast today. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen in to your audio content so that you never miss the story of entrepreneurship and innovation coming out of Rochester, Minnesota. We'll be back again next week with a brand new episode.